The third week of Lent leads us into the great gift of the commandments. You will remember that the chosen people were in slavery to the Egyptians for 430 years. It's an incredible amount of time. They were led out miraculously by God, and then God led Moses up Mount Sinai and gave him the gift of the commandments. Very interestingly, and most importantly, God says to Moses, now make sure the people obey these commandments, otherwise they're going to fall into a worse form of slavery than they were before. Incredible. So the 10 Commandments are most important. Unfortunately, in modern life, there's a real bias against fundamental human values, or the command. That's what the commandments are. They're showing us fundamental human values. In their original form, it seems, they were given as 10 words, so hence we call it the Decalogue. The Decalogue, 10 words, and then it seems the Jewish people filled it out as they understood more and more what God was talking about on Mount Sinai, the gift that he was giving. They understood it as through their human experience. So each of the 10 Commandments could be summarized in a word. So the first 3 deal with God, so you could say, well, God, his name, and then his day. And you can see the importance of, say, for instance, the day of rest, that when we don't rest physically, psychologically, spiritually, we get worn out. Our souls and our bodies become very weary. It's very, very practical. The Jews, of course, institutionalized the day, but in modern life we've been so intent on pulling it all apart that suddenly we don't have proper rest. So it's very important that we understand these commandments, once again, just to reiterate this to you, are defending fundamental human values. So the first 3 deal with God, the next 7 deal with our neighbour, and again they're very important. So honour your father and mother is the 4th, so the word that comes to mind there is family. Thou shalt not kill, the word that comes to life there is life. So in other words, there should be no violence. We can't tolerate violence in our relationships, in our societies, in civil life, in our familial life, in our personal relationships. It's not on. And this commandment is saying that defend the dignity of human life. Then of course you have thou shalt not commit adultery, so sexual fidelity, the word that comes to mind there. The 8th commandment is most important, deals with our gift of speech, how we're using our gift of speech. The 7th deals with property. Well, think of the abuse of money and the abuse of property that currently takes place in our society. So you can see that with us losing a sense of the 10 words of the commandments, our society is all the worse for it. So one of the things that we should be really convinced of as believing people is to say, look, this is a great gift not only to us but also very much to society. I'll just finish on a couple of points here about the commandments, which I think is important. When you go to the book of Isaiah, right at the beginning of the book of Isaiah, there's this sense of this existential principle about morality. So it says, cease to do evil, learn to do good. So when you learn moral theology, they're very insistent on saying, look, one of the things you've got to do in life is to identify those things that are not right in your life, those things that are evil, and just stop them. Go off the cliff with them, stop them. And by doing that, by having the experience of the absence of the evil, you understand the evil itself. So for instance, if I'm a gossip and I suddenly realize I'm a gossip and I stop doing it, then the absence of not doing that particular action of speaking about people badly, I come to an awareness of just how bad it is. So it's an existential or experiential principle. So cease to do evil, learn to do good. And then I begin to realize I should be kind to people. And I'm not kind enough, and so I start to be kind to people. And suddenly I realize how good this is. That's most important. And this point then leads to the final point I'd like to make to you. And that is that the commandments are objective truth, but when they start to enter us and become part of us, then that's what we want. The objective truth becomes subjectively ours. So for instance, thou shalt not kill. So when I can say really clearly and sincerely, I am not a murderer, what I've done through the experience, I have taken the objective truth and it's become part of me so that I now say I'm not a murderer. The 8th commandment deals with our gift of speech. I don't gossip. So therefore I become a person who is not a gossiper, a slanderer, someone I protect people's reputations. That's who I am. So you can see the absolute importance of the commandments of of living them, of knowing them, living them, and making them part of our own life.